People are pouring baby oil on one another outside this courthouse. Baby oil having a very big play in the freak-offs we heard about.
All right, that's enough. This is a family show. That's what was going on out there. A freak off outside the courthouse. Golly. Not guilty verdicts for some of the most serious charges brought against Diddy. Still 2 guilty verdicts, but not on the RICO charge, which was, I thought, always a questionable charge, even though Diddy is a disgusting and perverted and very likely criminal, now a convicted criminal, according to jurors on 2 counts. He still did not get the convictions on the big ones. And so now he's fighting to get out of custody. The judge today just denied him release, saying that he's going to be a flight risk, and we're waiting for the order to drop from the judge. But I got the letters queued up of the final filings, and Diddy was asking and demanding that he be released today. That did not happen, obviously. And other people who were parties to the case also jumped in on this, saying, don't release Diddy. It's going to be a big problem. But the scene outside the courthouse was wild. Apparently, Diddy had a bunch of fans out there saying, outside the courtroom, it's not RICO, it's FRICO outside the courthouse, which is an interesting chant.
Now, outside of the courthouse, you don't have the marshals regulating the behavior. You don't have the marshals upholding that prim and proper and etiquette that is happening inside of a courtroom. No, instead, I kid you not, people are pouring baby oil on one another outside this courthouse. Baby oil having a very big play in the freak-offs we heard about. You have people saying it's not RICO, it's FRICO. You've got applause coming when the mother of Sean Diddy Combs, Miss Janice, got out of the vehicle just a few moments ago, really, behind us and walked inside, to elated cheers and her greeting the crowd. Every time the family, the children, the 6 adult children come in, 3 boys and 3 girls, they are met by cheers. Now,
all right, so lots of people enjoying the freak off stuff, and they were even dropping baby oil on each other. This dude, Matt Levietes, he's a reporter for NBC News. He said, Combs supporters are spraying baby oil on each other outside of the courthouse. Yeah, this was happening today. All right, that's enough. This is a family show. That's what was going on out there. A freak off outside the courthouse. Golly. So now the question was, can Diddy get out of custody? We all remember Steve Sadow, amazing defense attorney representing Trump in Fannyland, Georgia, says, for those of you following the Diddy trial, the federal sentencing guidelines for the 2 offenses of conviction are a base level of 14 and combined a probably offense level of 16, which is sentencing range 20 to 27 months. The guidelines are advisory and not mandatory. But if the judge is not letting him out today, he might be looking at a prison sentence, and that's where the judge might be leaning on this. But as Diddy was trying to get out of custody, several letters were sent in. We had 2 of them come from Diddy himself. The first one was this one right here. It said, hey, we don't think that Diddy is a flight risk or anything like that. And then they sent actually another letter, which dropped right here. And this was a follow-up to the first level and the first letter. They said this to the judge as the day was coming to a close. Your Honor, Diddy should be released on bail today. For months, the government repeatedly argued and announced to the world that Diddy was a monster who perpetrated a 20-year federal crime spree through a racketeering enterprise. It devoted enormous resources to this case. Then, after almost a year in detention, Combs finally got his day in court, and the allegations were tested by a jury of his peers. And that jury heard the government's evidence, including testimony from former girlfriends. And by its verdict, the jury resoundingly rejected the government's depiction of Diddy, the jury finding him not guilty of racketeering and not guilty of trafficking. It convicted him only on 2 counts, which were related to the transportation of adults whom the jury clearly found were consensual participants. Now, the offenses here are of a far less serious nature. Prostitution offenses are no longer even prosecuted as a matter of policy in the Manhattan DA's office. And for as gross as what you think Diddy, did, and we heard some of it here, if you're prosecuting people for transportation, like flying people on airplanes to go and engage in these things, that standard, I would argue, is being, violated every single day. And they make a volitional decision in many U.S. attorneys' offices to not bring those cases. So those charges alone wouldn't have been brought. Now, it would be unjust to continue detaining Combs even one day longer, especially since, given the sentencing guidelines, he would otherwise be entitled to serve additional time at even a lower security facility. Now, we write to respond to the government's arguments opposing bail. First, Combs was not convicted of a crime of violence at all, and the court should therefore therefore consider his bail application under these provisions and not the ones they want. And the government also overstates his sentencing exposure. And third, the court should release him on the proposed conditions because there are exceptional reasons why detention would not be appropriate. There was no crime of violence here. The government is incorrect to say that this was a crime of violence. Says this one involves minor that they're referencing, but this is not a minor. None of these people were minors. They're adults. Apply to Mr. Combs' bail request and those not maintained under the law. And also, crime of violence was amended in 1998, and it says minors, but these were adults, so it doesn't count. So crime of violence is also inconsistent with the judiciary reports, and these other chapters provide another case in point. Knowingly transporting any individual for activity of a sexual variety is what that is, and this is not that. This is prostitution only. This is nothing involving minors, and so that does not count. And also, Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, who also handled the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and also didn't find any other criminals in that entire operation, other than Ghislaine, for facilitating minors for being for the use of sexual exploitation. None of that apparently was trafficked to anybody, only Ghislaine. She was just transporting them to herself or to Epstein or something, and then all of that was forgotten. And I'm still of the mindset, I think if you put on the conspiracy hat on this case, there was something much broader than this. Like, this was the Biden FBI raiding Diddy to get compromat on some bad people. They thought Diddy had compromat on Trump, or they needed to get Diddy's compromat on Melania, or let's say Obama's kids, Sasha and the other one, or something, right? To go reclaim some bad evidence or to go obtain some bad evidence against someone who's an enemy of yours or whatever. And it just turned into a prosecution and they got their hands on the goods and that was the end of it. Now, on this basis, it claims that 3 levels are added. And so you're just prosecuting him too aggressively. Now, the government's arguments that 2 points should be added for obstruction are also meritless. And so you should let him out. Mr. Combs has exceptional circumstances here. 18-year-old twin daughters, 27-year-old son with no living parent. Combs' mother's 85. Mama Diddy, she suffers from various health conditions, heart surgery, brain surgery. Combs has a 3-year-old child. Combs served almost 11 months already in bad conditions, and so let him out. Now, there was a lot of opposition to that, as we can see in this letter. This one came out from Douglas Wigdor. Says, we write as counsel for Cassandra Ventura to request that Combs not be released. We think detention is mandatory post-conviction, and Miss Ventura believes Combs is going to pose a danger to her and to the victims who testified in this case, including herself as well as to the community. And there was another letter that also came out from Deontay Nash, sent this one in. Dear Judge, please don't let Diddy out. Writing, I am writing to express my grave concern over the prospect of Sean Combs being released from custody. While I appreciate the fairness you've shown throughout this proceeding, I feel compelled to be unequivocal about the danger Diddy poses to the public and to the individuals who have risked everything by coming forward. Now, he has a long, well-documented history of violent, coercive, and retaliatory behavior. Over the years, he's repeatedly escaped meaningful accountability, and each time reinforces his sense of impunity. If he's released now, I've no doubt he's going to see it as another license to continue intimidating, threatening, and harming people. Many of us have firsthand knowledge of the fear he instills. I can say without hesitation, he's a serious and immediate threat to victims, pattern of violence, unchecked substance abuse, and more. And so, without any substantial consequence, his wealth and influence is going to prove that that can shield someone indefinitely from accountability. And so I urge you in strongest possible terms to prioritize the safety of victims and witnesses over any consideration of leniency for Diddy. Mr. Combs has had countless opportunities to change. He's not doing that. Thank you for your time and commitment to this. Respectfully, Deontay Nash. And so now Diddy supporters are celebrating out there. It's baby oil and freak off season out there.